Following the explosion in podcasting, many entrepreneurs see the ear as the next piece of human real estate to go after in the fight for people's time and attention. Earlier this year, Silicon Valley became obsessed with a new app called Clubhouse, an audio-based social network where people can spontaneously jump into different chat rooms to talk together. Launched amid the pandemic, since day one, the app has attracted the kind of funding, controversy, and hype that's ruffled feathers and made headlines. The social audio space is booming. Investors are piling in, and recently Twitter revealed that it's launching its own take on social audio, a space that's currently being dominated by Clubhouse. One of Clubhouse's super users is none other than Virgil Abloh, Louis Vuitton's men's artistic director and creative director of Off-White. Virgil joins us at Voices 2020 today from Chicago, alongside Clubhouse founder Paul Davison, who is in San Francisco. Welcome to you both.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Likewise. How's it going, Imran?
Good to see you again, Virgil. I'm gonna start with Paul because, Paul, I think everyone in the Silicon Valley world has heard of Clubhouse, but there are people watching who may not yet have understood what this is. So in the first instance, I'm going to ask you the question, why do we need another social media app? What is it that Clubhouse offers to the world that isn't already out there?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. One slight correction, I'm the co-founder of Clubhouse with my friend Rohan. So Clubhouse, it's a new type of social network that's based on voice, where people around the world come together to talk and listen and learn from each other about topics ranging from fashion to retail and music and sports and social justice. It's sort of like the hallways of this conference, right? Where it's all on your phone, there's no video, but you can reconnect with people, you can learn, or you can just be a fly on the wall. And I think that connection is an inherently human thing. We're wired to connect. And voice is a very different medium. We've seen it grow recently because of things like AirPods and smart speakers and in-car integrations of this technology. But it's in some ways the oldest medium in the world, right? We were talking long before we were writing or taking photos or shooting videos. But in the world of social media, it's a new thing. And we find that it allows people to connect in a different way. You have all of the fidelity and authenticity and bids and asks and emotion, but you don't have any of the anxiety of video or worrying about what you look like or how messy your house is. And so it creates this different type of experience that is more about connecting with people and having conversations than about getting likes or follows or projecting a certain view of yourself to the world. So we think it's a pretty different experience than what's out there right now.
Okay. So Virgil, let me turn to you because, as I mentioned in the intro, you've kind of become a Clubhouse super user. And, in my conversations with you, I know you're a busy guy. We were talking to Michael Wolf earlier today, who says the average person is spending 13 hours a day on their technology devices. Why are you carving out time in your very busy schedule to use Clubhouse? What do you get out of Clubhouse that's different from what you can get elsewhere?
No, it's one of those things where I rationalize it like this. I'm in the design community, which basically means that I'm a part of the uber small percentage of people that get to dictate what pants you wear next year look like. I have an opinion, and I'm a part of a collective that decides what the trend for your car or your interior of your home may look like. That's, to me, I take that as a huge responsibility. This is like shelving away all the things like the fun side of the job or something like that. So I think it's a part of my responsibility of my craft to be knowledgeable, to know what's going on in the world. Like if I lock myself in my studio and I sit in a place where I think from my sort of like shielded view of the world, this is what I think should impact the lives of others, I think that that's the wrong path. So when Clubhouse comes around, which I believe is a forward-thinking concept from amazing people with great hearts and good vision, like it's a no-brainer, and I project that out. And so my friends told me, Jeff Caravallo from High Snobiety was an early user of Clubhouse, and he was like, hey, like this is something I know you would be into. You should try it out. And that's how I became a user, and I've been a fan of the operation ever since.
So 2 other quick things that I might add.
Sure.
One is that because it's audio, you can multitask. And so it takes advantage of a lot of found time. It's not something where you're staring at a screen and just scrolling for hours and doing nothing else. People are using it while they're walking, while they're driving, while they're in bed at night, while they're folding laundry, while they're doing all sorts of other things. And the second thing I'd say is a big goal for us is to ensure that when people spend time on Clubhouse, it is time well spent, where they can spend time on it and close the app at the end of the session feeling better than they did when they opened it, because they've deepened friendships, they've met new people, they've learned. It's a participatory, different experience than sort of scrolling a screen and purely consuming.
Got it. So Virgil, let me take it back to you for a minute. You're, as you said, you're this, top designer in the industry now. You can dictate, what pants, or what, as we call trousers in the UK, what trousers you'd wear next season. But, what do you think, like a fashion brand like Louis Vuitton could, use or learn from Clubhouse? How could fashion brands make use of this tool? They've found different ways to use Instagram and other social media apps, but what could a fashion brand use Clubhouse for?
Well, this is just something that I was just like reflecting on. In essence, obviously, there's this, in the fashion industry, there's this hyper sort of like attention paid towards digital space, e-commerce, web impressions, content, photos, videos, data. When at the end of the day, it's an extreme metric and tool to engage. And I think with the advent of Clubhouse sort of refocusing on audio, it's an interesting case study, and seeing, like, making sure that brands have something to say. When you can't escape to creating an image that looks like fashion, so then people consume it as fashion, or a video that looks glossy and it looks like a moving image of fashion ambiance. Like, I, for one, think it's a new landscape to hear what a brand's about, without the use of image, or without the adjacency to say a product within that image. It's like, what do you have to say? And that becomes compelling as a fashion industry when we can use our voice to create engagement.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because of course it's like second nature for the fashion industry to communicate through imagery, but how does a fashion company communicate through sound? I don't know, Paul, if you have anything to add there.
Well, I think it's such an interesting contrast when you're talking about the fashion industry, right? I mean, ostensibly fashion is visual, it is curated. This is literally the opposite. You can't fake. You can't have a social media manager post to Clubhouse, right? You're talking, and the community aspect is a really big part of it, because it's so participatory, and you're calling people from the audience. You're engaging with the people that care about your brand. You have people in the industry sourcing creatives for shoots and talking about trends and what's happening in the news. It's a very different experience. So I love the fact that Virgil has enjoyed using the product, because on its surface, that contrast is just so fascinating to me, like the visual and curated versus the raw and intimate.
Yeah, all the conversations that I've hosted or been a part of on Clubhouse related to fashion, Imran, in a weird way, have been more in depth than interviews or sort of regular format sort of media, because what the audience is getting to hear what they can't see on Instagram. It's too many characters to type. obviously none of us, or a person like me, I'm not media trained to be able to like soundbite and have my ideas go through Instagram so that people exactly get the nuance. And a medium like Clubhouse is where, as a designer, I can talk about the inspirations that I only usually talk about press with. And I think that that's a new way of talking about inspiration, talking about, like how product came to be, that it's like a meaningful connection.
Yeah.
The other thing I might add to that is that I mentioned that, audio is the oldest medium in a lot of ways. And we've had to learn how to create, short form posts. We've had to learn how to take great photos. We have to learn how to edit videos. We have to learn how to produce a podcast. It's a lot of work, but everyone can talk. And there's so many smart, thoughtful, funny, creative, brilliant people who have domain expertise, and so many other people in the world who just want to hear them talk. And being in a room with them is this uniquely intimate experience. Like anytime Virgil comes up and starts talking, I get all these texts saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm in a room with Virgil. This is incredible." Right. It's a different type of experience.
Yeah,
and it's
it really gives a different level of access to people. And as you guys said, it can't be faked. You need, a fake Virgil or another person can't be Virgil on Clubhouse. They have to be
That's
Virgil.
Right.
But Paul, I wanted to ask you about your plans for the future, because, I was reading up a little bit last night, and Wired magazine actually called Clubhouse harder to get into than Berghain, which is that like legendary nightclub in Berlin. So as you think about the growth of Clubhouse, as you think about expanding the community, that will present new challenges for you. How do you scale Clubhouse while also maintaining this human connection and intimacy that we were speaking about earlier?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say is that we are building Clubhouse for everyone. We haven't launched to the general public yet, and so it's been growing through an invite system, but we are building it for everyone, and that's what we aspire to do. And I think that the way you do that is to evolve from being a single community of beta testers into a network of many different communities. We think about this concept of scaling intimacy all the time, because I think you hit on a really, really important point there. How do you scale that intimacy? And the way that we think you do it is you empower the moderators of the rooms. You empower the founders of clubs, which are effectively groups within Clubhouse, to create their own spaces, to gather the people that they want to gather, to set the rules that they want to set. And so it's similar to the real world, where you have everyone in the real world, but people form their own groups, they form their own rooms, they form their own networks. And it's really about building the tools that allow them to do that. And I think if you can do that, then you can scale intimacy and have it be a network of many different communities.
Yeah. The other challenge, of course, that will come with growth is moderation. And,
Yep.
I've been tracking Clubhouse since you guys first launched earlier during the pandemic. And clearly there've been a few issues there in terms of like the things that are said, how they're said, what's private, what's public. And, yesterday at Voices 2020, we were talking to Roger McNamee and to Christopher Wiley about the growing power of technology companies. And they also have these companies. So as you scale, you're already facing some challenges around moderation and kind of what is, what should be said, what is right to be said, and what maybe is inappropriate. How do you think about that challenge?
Yeah, well, I think any time you're building a social platform, you have to make moderation and trust and safety a top priority. Because if you're building for everyone, you need to recognize that people are people and there are bad actors in the world, and you need to build a service that can account for that. And so, as you might know from having used Clubhouse, and Virgil could probably tell you, the conversations in Clubhouse are absolutely amazing, and it's a very, very wonderful, intimate space. But there are going to be incidents, and so you have to build systems that can detect those, that can respond to those, and so that's kind of the way we approach it. We say let's have the right people in place, let's have the right policies in place to make it clear what's allowed and what's not allowed, and let's build the right product features so that we can respond to that. And I think that if you do that, you can create a space that accounts for all the nuances of this new medium, right? It's not text, it's not photos, it's live group audio. And live means things are unfolding in real time. Group, it creates all these interesting dynamics. Like, how do you think about blocking someone when you're in a group and maybe one person wants to block them from the room and the other person doesn't? With audio, how do you think about intonation and tone and inflection and all of those dynamics? So I think what you need to do is recognize how this medium is different, and create a system that acknowledges that humans are humans. And when people come together, most of the moments can be wonderful, but there will be times where incidents can occur, and you just have to constantly make it a priority. So that's what we've been trying to do.
Okay. We don't have that much time left, but I have some questions coming through from all around the world. Trevor in Edmonton, Canada, not far from where I grew up, he's asking what the business model for Clubhouse is. Like, how are you planning to make money?
What we're really excited about is empowering other people to make money. So I imagine that our business model will be based on direct monetization for creators. So all of these conversations that we were talking about fashion and retail and music and social causes are wonderful, and we want those to continue. And we also get excited about comedians and people talking about the markets and armchair sportscasters and musicians singing into their phone at 7:30 on a Tuesday night. And I don't know if it's going to be subscriptions or paid membership fees for clubs or paid events or tipping or some other form, but we really like the idea of allowing all of these amazing creators who are out there to host great conversations and to be paid directly by listeners who would be happy to pay for that experience.
Got it. Virgil, I'm curious to learn, in your past few months of using Clubhouse, what has been the most interesting or explosive conversation you had? Because Clubhouse is kind of building a reputation for maybe, uncomfortable conversations that need to be had. Is there anything that you can recall that you would like to share with us?
I think the most sort of, obviously it's worthy to note that this is all happening in the year 2020, a year that we'll forever remember for the multitude of issues. I think nothing, of course, there's been great conversations on fashion and design and the cool, like, niche culture stuff, but tracking the America or the Clubhouse users' response during George Floyd's untimely death and was almost like gravity conversation that I wish the whole world could listen to, because I'm not sure. Obviously, things were happening on all of our Instagrams. They were happening all throughout Twitter sphere, but hearing people's voice was incomparable. And this is why I love Clubhouse, is because I'm not filtering out just the people I follow and getting a false sense of the world. Because once you do that, you start being surprised why, elections turn out the way they do, or why things happen the way they do. For me, being on Clubhouse, I learn when I'm listening. And I learned from just different people's points of view through a very tough time about speaking about race and how we can all root out systemic racism. So that would catalog that.
Okay. Well, I think Clubhouse is obviously a space to watch. I look forward to seeing you both on Clubhouse at some point. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing kind of your experiences of what it's like to build this disruptive company and what it's like to be a super user on this new disruptive app. So thanks to both of you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to welcome everyone from the conference to Clubhouse and to continue the conversation there if people are interested. Really appreciate your having me here today.
Great.